Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your F1 Monday night half hour, the half an hour of absolute madness that is the F1 show. And as always, I'm joined by our resident super fan in the room, Mr. Steve Thompson. Steve, how you doing, my man?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Yes, obviously a weekend off from F1 this weekend. So what do we do on our Sunday afternoon this weekend, Steve? Anything particularly delightful?
I went out for lunch with the other half of the in-laws. So a nice little change. No F1 2020 this weekend, so a nice break.
Oh, yeah. Where did you go for lunch? Not where did you go, because they're not paying us, but what did you have?
Yeah. Oh, well, it was a pub down in the village we live in. Lovely, lovely old place. I had a chicken tikka, what was it? Chicken tikka banquet. It was really good.
Oh, nice. Nice. Now, there's obviously no F1, like I said, but there's a couple of news bits that I picked out from the F1 official website, which we'll cover it in a little bit detail very soon. But as always, guys, as the little ticker on the bottom says, we want you to get involved, have your say in the chat, or, of course, you can come on the show if you want to. We've had that previously where people have come on the show. In fact, one of the people that came on the show once upon a time is now also a contributor to the show, Mr. Neil Moles. How are you doing?
Hello there. Yeah, not too bad.
Good. This man here is a Lando Norris super fan. Isn't that right, Neil?
That's the one.
That's the one. Absolutely. So tell me, how was your Sunday without F1 this weekend?
Quiet.
What did you do?
Went to see the parents. The other half was working for most of the day, so yeah, went over for lunch.
Love it. That is what it's all about, isn't it? You know, the F1's not there, so it's almost like a bye week in terms of other sports. One such as the one you're wearing there, Neil, in terms of the Cardinals, and it's like, right, what have we not done since the F1 came back? Seen parents, right? Let's see our parents. Seen the wife. Let's see the wife. It's all those sorts of things. We've got some messages coming in. We've got Ben Moore. Hi, lads. Hope you're all well. I am well. Steve as well. And I'm sure Neil as well, especially after his Cardinals got off to a lovely 2-0 start. Evening, everyone. Missed the F1 this weekend. And Daniel Barnard, evening. Good evening, gents. So our first news item I picked out of the official F1 site was this one, Steve and Neil. Can you tell us anything about this? What does it mean for that? Well, just what does it mean? Full stop.
Looking into it, I did a bit of research today. Yeah, because AlphaTauri, formerly Toro Rosso, has always been known as RedBulls. The idea was it was RedBulls Junior team. Dietrich Mateschitz, who owns Red Bull, purchased Toro Rosso in 2006, basically to give the Red Bull Junior program drivers a stepping stone into Formula One. If they proved themselves and proved they could do it, then they'd make the jump from Toro Rosso to Red Bull. I mean, it's worked in the past. You know, the likes of Sebastian Vettel, for example, went to Toro Rosso, then Red Bull. Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, and now Pierre Gasly, even though he's gone back to AlphaTauri. Moving them up to a sister team, I think it's a good move. There'll be less of the sort of they're still going down the sort of young driver routes. They're still probably going to use AlphaTauri as a route in for their young drivers, but it'll be viewed less of a stepping stone, really. It's more of a chance to prove themselves.
But it's the most experienced lineup AlphaTauri have had so far, isn't it, Neil? Gasly and Kvyat.
Kvyat.
That's the fella.
Yeah.
I'm glad you've said it. It's their most experienced lineup, though, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not really juniors anymore, are they?
No.
Especially Kvyat on his second sort of stint with them.
So is this a way of becoming somewhat almost like Red Bull Light, if you like?
I suppose you could look at it that way, because you think in the past, in like Toro Rosso's earlier days, they were the Red Bull Junior team. You know, you had drivers like Jaime Alguersuari, Sebastian Bourdais, young drivers in their time with a view to getting into Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel, of course, being another one.
Max Verstappen,
Daniel Ricciardo, and even some of the other drivers.
I knew something.
Steve, does this sister team part make it more like Racing Point is going to be with Mercedes, where they'll very much take all the parts they're allowed to take from the main team?
Sort of. Basically, they're going to be using from next year. They're going to be using Red Bull's wind tunnel. So they use a 60% scale. No, they use a 50% scale car at the minute in theirs. But now using Red Bulls, they can use a 60%. So they get a better idea of aero, better understanding. So the cars will still be fundamentally different visually, unlike the Mercedes and the Racing Point. But a lot of the mechanics, a lot of the back end is going to be very, very similar to the Red Bull, if not from the previous year's Red Bull, which is how it's been for the past couple of years.
I know the reason why they use 50% size wind tunnels for space restrictions, but you think in the F1 world with the problems that can happen, because wasn't that what happened with Ferrari a few years back, where because it's half the size, if you end up making a slight error, then you basically, by the time it's to 100%, it's twice the issue it was in the wind tunnel.
Yeah, there's something like that. And with AlphaTauri now being able to utilize Red Bull's wind tunnel and get a bigger scale model to understand, hopefully, I mean, you're going to see them start to maybe pull themselves forward in the Constructors' Championship and start to get, maybe more podiums, certainly more points finishes than what they're getting now.
Because obviously using the wind tunnel, won't that allow the budget to be diverted into design, development, and things that perhaps they can't necessarily have do now? Yeah.
So you're going to have more money aside for other things. Obviously, aero, very, very important. They've got a good deal because they've obviously got the same engine as Red Bull anyway. Honda are supplying, because the idea was Honda came into Toro Rosso as sort of a testing ground before it went to Red Bull. And then when Red Bull took the Honda engine, they kept it at Toro Rosso and obviously now AlphaTauri. So they've still got the same engine that's in the back of the Red Bull. And a lot of the mechanics at the back end, gearbox, suspension, are going to be very, very similar as well. So you have got more budget put aside, which is a good deal.
Without the pressure from McLaren, because they always wanted to perform, under Toro Rosso, Honda managed to make a few gains, didn't they, away from the spotlight? Yeah,
definitely. Because McLaren, I think McLaren and AlphaTauri, or Toro Rosso then, two very different teams. Obviously, McLaren expect to be fighting at the front. Toro Rosso, not so much. So they can just stick the engine in the back of that for a year, give them a year to develop it, build it, upgrade it, sort of finalize it. Then if it's good, it goes in the Red Bull. If it's not, maybe give it another year or two. So yeah, with less pressure on Honda, they really pulled it out of the bag, and it's doing really well in the back of the Red Bull.
Perfect.
Did you hear with the Racing Point, with their new aero upgrades, they've actually moved slightly away from the Mercedes design?
Okay, that's good. The less like Mercedes, the better.
The exterior on their front brake ducts are very much 2020 Mercedes wise, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've made them almost exactly the same shape, but obviously on the inside, now that they can't, have any help there. Yeah, apparently it's different. But
before we move on to our second news item, you've done well there, filling 9 minutes with that, because obviously there's no race this weekend. So Tim Reddish has a comment here. Albon isn't good enough, but can't see Gasly being promoted again to Red Bull. Needs to look outside the family. Russell, that'll be music to Steve's ears, being a big Russell fan. Russell will be good, but he's a Mercedes contract driver. Who do you think could go there?
I hope Gasly doesn't, and I hope Russell doesn't, because Albon, I don't know. Albon's a good driver, but he's in a team that blatantly favours Max, and any second driver is going to be let down, I think, there. That's why I don't want Russell to go there, because he'll be number two. And if he gives it a year or two, he's got a seat virtually guaranteed at Mercedes when Bottas finally goes. I can't moan about him this week. He's done nothing wrong this time.
I know. Well, he probably went for the safest Sunday roast option.
Just have chicken. Just have chicken. He's a chicken man. He's not beef or pork, is he?
With no gravy.
No. Gasly, I don't want to see him go back to Red Bull, because he's now sort of reinvigorating himself and redistinguishing himself as a young, promising driver. And if he goes back to Red Bull, it's just going to be the same old thing. So he can go to another team and move up another team. It worked for Carlos Sainz. He never went to Red Bull. He went to Renault, then McLaren, and now he's going to Ferrari. So he's done all right for himself. The thing is with Red Bull, they're very quick to go through drivers. If they don't perform like Kvyat, Gasly, they go back to Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, and then they're going to run out of drivers at this rate. So it's tricky who they go for. They could go for experience. I know Sergio Perez is available next year. Nico Hülkenberg obviously is still a free agent.
Okay, Neil,
It's an
same
interesting one.
question. Let's see if you can get to the crux of the matter. Because Steve's certainly dancing around a brilliant question here.
I'm struggling.
Neil, what do you think? Same question.
Well, I myself agree in some ways that I wouldn't want Russell to go there. Yeah, I think he needs to pursue the fact that a Mercedes seat will arise. I think Albon will he'll stay there. I can't see them. They're very much happy with him being the number 2, and however average he might seem at times, he could find his feet again. You know, he's had his podium finish, and that could be his little stepping stone now. Bit of confidence, and he can carry on.
Yeah, JD back in the room. Nice to see you, JD. Welcome back, my man. Ferrari are not what they used to be. I think we agree with that, don't we?
Yeah, hands down. It's not going to be easy for them, especially since they're stuck with the same bag of nails they got next year as well.
How do Ferrari move themselves back on?
Different management.
Neil,
what happened with the restructuring they were talking about?
I don't know. If Binotto's part of it, it didn't work because he's useless.
Yeah, but
the strategy side is useless as well.
Whoever that front man is, they seem to keep chopping and changing, but they still have the same mistakes behind the scenes. So I'm not sure if that front man is actually ever the issue. Surely it's more deep within.
The team doesn't really seem to have a leader. Like in the early noughties, when it was the Schumacher sort of Barrichello era, they had the likes of Ross Brawn, Jean Todt, that sort of thing. They had clear leaders. And it was helped they had one of the greatest drivers for them at the time. But they had a fantastic car because the designers were amazing. The designers now aren't as good. It is tricky when you're competing with a team like Mercedes, who are still years ahead of the pack. They do need, I think, from top to bottom, they do need to restructure.
Martin's having a little sniggering fit over there. I saw his little twerking eyebrows.
Sorry. Weren't Ferrari cheating, JD says.
Yes.
Can we say yes or no without getting slanderous? Sorry, I was just getting worried about my bank account with the slander comments coming out. He's useless. He's absolutely useless.
Martin, put it this way. Ferrari were found to have done something they shouldn't.
Good enough for me. If they found it, we can say it.
And basically, now it's been removed, they are a lot slower. So what more evidence do you need?
And it's not just Ferrari, is it? It's also the Ferrari-powered cars. Alfa Romeo and Haas, they're just as bad.
If Ferrari can find some little upgrades on their engine to get a bit more performance back, I don't think their chassis is that terrible. It might not be the best out there, but if they got a bit more power out of their engine, you've seen where Leclerc can throw the car anyway. So
yeah. I mean, fair play to it. He's put
give him a little boost.
Shouldn't be.
Ready? So we've got next one. We've got what do Haas do in 2021? Hang on. Let me get the that's it. So they've got a conundrum coming up in 2021 with their drivers. What do you think the team should do? Should they stick with who they've got currently? Or do you recruit experience? Perez and Hulk. Obviously, Hulk's been mentioned several times on this show in the first 5-6 weeks. Steve's a big fan. Or maybe you go with the youth. Individually, we'll start with you, Neil. What do you think they should do in 2021 with their drivers?
I'm not really a fan of Grosjean or Magnussen. So unfortunately for them, the sooner they're off the grid, the better.
So you'd like them removed completely. That's it. Just cut them both loose.
The thing is, I used to like Grosjean back when he was at the Lotus team. He was quite good alongside Kimi, but he seems to have stagnated at that team, and if anything, gone a little bit beyond that, and he's a little bit past it really. Magnussen, he's a good driver. He can fight. Sometimes he goes a bit beyond just a good fight, and it's a little bit dodgy. But yeah, if you want someone to scrap, he can do that. But I don't know. I just feel there's better than him out there as well. I think both Perez and Hülkenberg could do a better job than than them two. So
who would you replace with it? I'm very keen to try and narrow down some sort of opinions here, guys. So who would you want to replace?
I was going to ask Steve, youth-wise, who's in GP2 or say F2 that is in a Ferrari type contract, because that's who would get a Haas seat now anyway, because a lot of the good ones, aren't they more say Renault contracts and things?
It's Mick Schumacher, isn't it? He's probably the highest profile name in Formula 2, and it's not just because of his last name. He is a fantastic driver. I think he's leading the championship, which is brilliant.
Is it Ilott as well that is a Ferrari?
Callum Ilott is, and I think Robert Schwartzman as well. Out of those, I'd like to see in Haas next year, because Grosjean and Magnussen, like yourself, I'm not really a fan. I've never really been a fan of Grosjean. Magnussen does my nut in. So get them both out of the way. I'd have Hülkenberg in one seat, because he is fantastic at setting up a car, and he is quick and he's consistent. And I think I would have either Ilott or Schumacher in the second seat, because it'd be ideal for them to start in Formula 1 in a team like that. They've still got Ferrari backing. They've got an incredibly experienced and talented teammate to learn from. And yet the car's not going to be a world beater, but they've got something they can fight in.
You've got to remember, though, that whoever Perez goes to will get whatever funding he brings, because I think he's got some connections, and he's always been known for being able to bring a little bit of money with him. Well, so whether that ticks any boxes for any teams,
it's for a team like Haas that is going to attract them, or it's going to turn their heads, because they've got funding obviously from Gene Haas anyway. But that's
JD, sure, nice. he likes K-Mag, but Grosjean can get lost. I can't believe he's still on the grid.
He's a Grosjean fan, really. He's always telling me how much he loves Grosjean. He's really not. Haas,
I got that from the comment.
Mine, what are your thoughts on Grosjean?
I like him with chips.
There you go.
Chicken Grosjean. It's as close as I've got. I don't know anything about Grosjean. I know, I'm sorry. I'm just here for the banter. Team Reddish, Red Bull target must be to finish second in constructors. Need Albon getting top 5 every week. 2, inconsistent. Aston Martin will have that target next to. Red Bull should have re-signed Vettel. Do you agree with that's the target for Albon? He must be getting top 5 every week. Do we agree with Tim with that?
If he doesn't, I think he should be more top 4. There's no reason.
Yeah.
Wherever Verstappen finishes, he should be tailing him.
Red Bull have got the second quickest car this year. Well, it's tight with them and Racing Point, really, but Red Bull seems to be the more consistent. So you're going to have Mercedes first and second, which is a guarantee, unless something like Monza happens, which unfortunately you can't guarantee every week. Third place is most likely to be Verstappen. So yeah, you'd have thought that the person in fourth would be the guy in the car that's the same speed as Verstappen's, and he's fighting for 6th, 7th, 8th.
So back to Tim's earlier comment: is he not good enough? Is that what's holding him back? His own ability?
I don't know.
I wouldn't want to see him pushed out, and especially as the team have actually said that he doesn't actually have the same car as Verstappen.
Yeah,
which goes back to your original point, Steve, of Red Bull always kind of treating their drivers differently.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, right, we're going to give, I don't know, we're going to split like 70-30 to Max, or maybe 60-40. I don't know. We're going to give Max the lion's share of the data, of the parts, of everything.
As number one.
As number one. You just get on with being a number 2 driver and getting out there. And then you can't go to him and say, why aren't you as quick? You can't say, you're not doing good enough. You're in the same car. No, he's not. You can't. It was the same with Vettel and Webber years ago at Red Bull. And again with Verstappen and Gasly.
Do you think, though, with Webber and Vettel, it was a little bit more 50-50? And with all the shenanigans that went on, is that why they now go more for, say, the old Ferrari regime of fancying one more than the other?
No, I honestly believe that Red Bull, until it was Vettel Webber, because before that he had Vettel and he had Webber and Coulthard in Red Bull, so two older, more experienced guys anyway. For 2009, Vettel came in alongside Webber. He was the young, upcoming driver, and it's then that I think Red Bull thought, hang on, we've got a good car here, because 09 was their first good year, and we've got a young, promising young driver who's won a race in a Toro Rosso. We'll just give him all of the attention. Webber still did very well, and he still fought with Vettel, but he was more of a number 2 driver when Vettel joined, and it's been that way ever since.
Right, so 21 minutes in of a half an hour show, we better turn our attention to Russia. Obviously, this weekend coming. Mercedes
cracking race.
Well, yeah, obviously Hamilton won it last year.
Oh.
There was a few collisions last year. What do we expect from this year's race, Steve?
Bottas will qualify within 1/10 of a second of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton will get pole position, obviously. Bottas will get second, obviously. Bottas will be second into turn 1, and then he'll sit back and he will play rear gunner to Hamilton. Hamilton will win. Bottas will get a boring second place and go and be boring elsewhere.
And we can have bemoaning Bottas next week at 5.
And we can. What are we going to do if he wins the race?
Is JD Shaw being sarcastic?
I really hope so. Because it's not
you've got to take a man at his word here, haven't you? He thinks it's a great track.
I'm glad he does.
There's
others out there.
Do you agree, Neil? Do you agree? Is it a great track?
I normally remember it as a bit of a follow the leader sort of track, but
yeah, there's a couple of really good bits on that track. Mainly when you come out of turn 1, you've then got that long sweeping left-hander, which is awesome. You get a really good run through there. But apart from that, apart from when the checkered flag drops, I can't think of another good bit in that race, really.
No, there's a few collisions last year. Is it a collision type track for those that have never seen Russia?
It can be. The first corner, because you've got a really long straight with a kink in it, down's turn 1, and then they all bunch up, and it's quite a narrow turn 1 before you go into that long left-hander. And we've seen so many crashes there over the past few years. And yeah, there have been a few hits and a few knocks, and it is quite accident prone, I suppose, but it's just another one of those circuits where it's got miles of runoff either side of it, and it's a bit dull, especially with Mercedes.
Okay, so if I had to ask you, I'll ask you individually. I'll ask you first, Steve. Who do you think the top 5 will be, and then also what you want the top 5 to be? So if you want Russell number 1, you say Russell number 1, but give me what you think it will be first of all, and then what you want it to be. So top 5.
I think because Bottas does actually go very well at Russia. He's won it a couple of times. I think he's got pole there once or twice. So I'm going to say Bottas first. I really hope so. Then we don't have to moan about him next week. Bottas first. Hamilton second.
We'll find a way.
There will be something, yeah. Bottas, then Hamilton. I think Verstappen third still. Then 4th and 5th, Perez and Stroll. But what I want it to be, Verstappen first, Bottas second, Vettel third, Leclerc 4th, and Russell 5th, Hamilton DNF. Just out.
Neil, top 5?
Do you think Verstappen's a little bit out of the championship now?
The 2 DNFs in a row haven't helped him, have they?
No. And the one at the start of the season.
Yeah, where would he be if he hadn't had those DNFs? Second.
Yeah, he's only 15 points behind Bottas.
See, that's bad. You've retired from 3 races this season, and you're only 15 points behind a guy in the best car on the grid.
Yeah, and he's
this is why I moan about Bottas.
Well, we know why you moan about Bottas, but I in some respects I wish him all the best. But in a way, if he does win it, that's a huge segment of our show taken away. I've got to try and fill some time.
He's keeping us going here.
Bottas, keep doing what you're doing, my friend. So Neil, your top 5, what you think it will be, and also what you want it to be. So Norris number 1, I'm imagining.
What I think it will be, I can't imagine it being anything different from a hard-fought Mercedes battle. So basically, it would be, again, I think it'd be nice if Bottas can find that little edge in qualifying to get him ahead, even if he will get overtaken into the first corner. But
It's always the same. And I'm first. Oh, no, I'm not.
You two are so kind to him. Oh,
Well, he should be better.
We want more from him. It's
Exactly.
not that we don't dislike him as such.
No,
you know, we're willing for him to be better.
I like
Come
the
on.
guy. I really do. I genuinely do like him. But
he's just steady Eddie, isn't he? You know, he's
so
just consistently
boring.
consistent. It's just never goes,
Yeah.
up and down though, does he? Like Verstappen, great driver, but he's had a few, issues over the course of the season. Whereas Bottas is just like,
Just bring
it's
back
that
Nico
line on a
Rosberg.
hot.
I think I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I think I'm going to go Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton. Then I'll go. I think I'm then go Norris, and then maybe Ricciardo.
Ooh, good shout. Actually, the Renaults have been going well at those kind of circuits.
Is that you think will be the top five, or you want
that's what's going to be?
And what's your want to be top five?
Norris, Russell,
Yeah,
Sainz,
right?
Leclerc.
Yeah. One more.
Latifi.
Yeah, go on then.
He's got Russell higher than you've got Russell. You've got Russell's super fan.
Oh, come on, I'm realistic.
Come on. Tim Reddish, thinking out the box, Verstappen to Mercedes.
Would love it, but it won't happen.
Would you finally become a Silver Arrow fan?
No.
That all like where the original question. No. When you mentioned about Vettel should have been snapped up again by Red Bull, that was never going to happen because they don't want one. They think he's a little bit past it, I feel, and it's a step backwards, and they don't want to do the step backwards. They want to be continuing on forwards. For another thing with Verstappen, they don't want the controversy of having Hamilton and him fighting in house. So yeah, that's just never going to happen unless Hamilton steps aside and basically, gives up the reins. So they want a number one. There is no way he'll ever go there.
They've seen how both drivers. Yeah, that is true. But they've seen how both drivers handle having teammates that fight them. Verstappen and Ricciardo, it ended quite badly on track a few times. Hamilton and Rosberg was really volatile, and Hamilton seems like he's a bit of a delicate soul, and you can really get under his skin. Rosberg managed that so many times. That's why they like Bottas, because Bottas is just so Bottas. He doesn't wind up Hamilton at all. He's just happy to sit back and say, there you go, after you. Whereas Rosberg would fight him to the point that they made contact. It happens a couple of times. So Mercedes don't want that to happen again because that cost them quite a few points. So they know that Verstappen is not going to want to sit back and be number two. Neither is Lewis. They're going to fight on track, and they're probably going to have incidents if they were together. So I'd love it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, right. So last couple of minutes, let's bring out the random driver number game. So Neil, give me a number between 1 and 12, and I'll give you a driver that doesn't necessarily get spoken about a lot, and we'll ask 3 questions. Or 2 questions, rather. What can they do more of, and how can they improve their abilities? So, Neil, give me 1 and 12, please.
2. Giovinazzi. Top quality driver.
Is that an honest opinion?
High hopes for the future.
Now, come on, honestly, tell me about him, and then tell me what he needs to do to improve for the future. Come
on. Consistency, I think, is one of the main things for him. He was running ahead of Kimi in Spa, and then the whole incident where he just spun it out, and just in general, you feel Kimi is on the way down, and Giovinazzi isn't really showing him up in any way. So yeah, he's got to show Ferrari basically that he is the man that's going to step forward. So that's really what he needs to do, and I think at the very least consistency will help him some way.
So at least top 8, top 10, top 5. What sort of consistency do you want to see from him?
For that car they've been battling Ferrari, so if they can try and show up Ferrari where Kimi does a little bit now.
Yeah.
But that's all. If he, at least at the very least, he starts finishing races all the time, and he can almost do like we've said about Albon, just finish with your teammate. He is your closest rival. He's got the same machinery. It's as much as you can do. If he can, the great Kimi Räikkönen, if he can finish near him, then yeah, he's on the way.
It's prime opportunity for him, isn't it? Because Kimi's obviously on the way out. He's 40 years old now. This is when he needs to be saying, look what I can do. My teammate's a world champion. Yes, he's older now, but I'm beating him regularly, so he needs to do that. I agree with what JD's saying. He never really does anything where you think, oh, fantastic, great stuff. He just sort of turns up, does his thing and goes. Which I suppose you kind of want, keeps his head down and gets on with it, but it's in a really unspectacular way.
I'm afraid for me, he's almost one of these drivers where he's just filling a seat. I'm not, it's one of those where if they said next week he's been replaced, I have no real connection to him, so I couldn't really say I'd miss it.
Is that the team? Is that the consistency element you're talking about, or is that just because he just doesn't feature in any race?
At what point does he wow at any point? He doesn't exactly wow in qualifying, and he generally doesn't finish that many races, as far as I'm probably statistically incorrect there, but just via feelings, it's
Well, don't worry, I haven't got any stats to back that argument up, so do not worry, my man. Steve, your turn.
Number 7.
Number 7, right? Let's have a look. Bear with me a minute. It is
top driver.
Yeah,
right. Tell me about him and how can he improve in the future? What does he need to do?
Well, I suppose he's doing everything he needs to do because he's got to drive a Ferrari next year. Great young driver, started with Toro Rosso, I think, as we said earlier in the show. He got beaten to the Red Bull seat by, was it Verstappen or Ricciardo that beat him to the seat? One of the two. I think it was Ricciardo. Moved to Renault, had a season at Renault, and then moved to McLaren, where he's done very, very well for himself. A couple of podiums on the board in what has been a very good car, improving car. I'm assuming that's about Giovinazzi.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, agree. But yeah, so he's done everything that he needs to do. He's got the eye of Ferrari. So
when he arrives at Ferrari, what does he need to do? What does success look like for him once he gets in that Ferrari hot seat?
Well, the odds are he's going to be a number 2 to Leclerc. It's clear that Ferrari see Charles Leclerc as their number 1 and their future, and he is younger than Sainz, not by much. Sainz is still a young driver. I think patience is going to be key for him because obviously this year's car, which is also going to be next year's car, is awful. So patience for next year, and hopefully they can start rebuilding in 2022, get competitive, start challenging for wins and podiums again. So it is really just sort of keeping his head down, getting the most out of whatever the hell he's got to drive next year, and fighting Leclerc and proving that he's not just there to be a backup driver.
Okay. And to close, we'll finish with Tim Reddish's point here. Tim, we've absolutely loved your input tonight, and as well as JD and Daniel and all you guys. So thanks ever so much. And we'll just close on this one because it's a Williams question. And I know, Steve, you're a big Williams fan. And I'll give you both a chance to answer. We'll finish on like 38 if we can. So don't go over 38 if we possibly can. But there's some great female drivers in the lower ranks and USA. Williams should put one in Latifi's seat next year. Couldn't do any worse than him, and good publicity. What do we think about that one then, Steve?
I sort of agree and I sort of don't. Well, mainly because Latifi and Russell are both contracted for next year anyway. But there are some fantastic female drivers out there. You've got Formula W, which actually has a Williams driver in it. Jamie Chadwick, she's one of the Williams development drivers. She was last year's champion. So she is very, very good. But I think what's holding a lot of them back is you need to get enough points on your super license to enable you to drive an F1. And I don't know if they've got enough. Latifi's seat is filled next year by Latifi. He brings good money to the team anyway through his sponsors. I think Lavazza actually comes from him. Couldn't do any worse than him. He's doing all right. He's sitting ahead of Russell in the championship right now because he got that 11th place finish in Austria. out of 11 cars still running. But there you go.
Neil, what do you think about Tim's point there?
Steve, is it F3? There's in one of the teams. There's a female driver.
I'm not sure. There was an F2 last year.
Okay, it might in one of them. I follow them on Instagram because I know there was an all-female team in Le Mans.
Yeah, that's
they
it.
were driving an LMP 2. They finished quite well.
Is it German?
Not
no.
sure.
Hang on, you keep talking. I'll look it up.
So there's a German driver in F3, Sophia Flush.
That's the one.
Yeah,
she had a crash a few seasons ago, didn't she?
Campos Racing.
Yeah. She's sort of on the way to trying to pursue getting into Formula One. So
it would be great to see.
Yeah, the thing is, like they're sort of getting in where they can, but I don't know, is the whole scheme transparent enough to actually show how good some of these drivers are? Are there enough spaces, for them to get in? And because with everything, I don't believe we should be, shoehorning people into scenarios just for the fact of having them in there. It's the pinnacle. They have to deserve to be there. So obviously, if they are quick enough, no reason to stop from putting them in there.
F1
I'm all for it, really. But
yeah, I mean, at one stage, a few years ago, 2011, 2012, F1 had 11 or 12 teams, and now they've got 10. They need at least, I think, 2 more teams, because the grid will allow you to have a maximum of 24. So they need, or 24 cars. So they need another couple of teams to bring it up. You've then got 4 extra spaces, and there's so many talented drivers. Obviously, like you've got Schwartzman, Eilert, Schumacher in F2. In a year or two, Flush could be up in Formula 2 or higher. So 4 extra seats on the grid would make a hell of a lot of difference, especially if you get the older guys like Raikkonen, Hamilton, Vettel. When they do retire, Alonso again, when they do go, you'll have 6, 7 seats for younger, talented drivers.
There we go. 10 seconds left on the clock. We're done. Another week in the books. Thank you all for joining us. I loved that last question. I loved JD's involvement throughout the show, and I've loved spending the last 38 minutes with both of you guys. So we're back next week, obviously, with the Russia report. No jokes there. Just back with the Russia
Bottas section, because that will be a thing, no doubt.
Yes, Bemoaning Bottas, the Russia report, and then we're looking ahead at the following week, which is where?
I can't remember. I can't remember.
We've got such a strange calendar this year, Martin.
It is. It's really messed me up. Hang on, let's have a look.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. I should have, sort of filled you in towards what the ending was going to be when we started, so you could have had it already. Now we're just looking competent. I'm going to click in forecast. We'll see you all later. See you next Monday, 8 p.m. Russia and Germany. No, all you, not Russia.